went from me kind of being in the forefront of the business. We were doing things like, before the private equity house came in, Monaco Grand Prix, VIP tickets in the best part of the track, a phenomenal experience. Las Vegas 3 or 4 times, Porto Banús, regular lunch ups, and all the usual things a recruitment business does, right? And I was in the thick of that. Although I was running the business, I was very sort of down with the kids as well, which I thought was important. But that had to change because of the dynamic of the new relationship. So, and that's when it started to go a little bit wrong. Welcome to the Purpose-Led Leadership Podcast. It's another solo podcast for me this week. And this week, I want to talk to you about how I scaled and exited my £25 million recruitment business. So a bit of context before that. In 1998, I joined the SThree group as a quite shy, young 21-year-old. SThree, for anyone that doesn't know, is a very large recruitment business, 3,000 or 4,000 consultants worldwide, £1.2 billion business across 20 countries, 60 offices. I started off there in a team called Risk, or RBR, which was just like a resourcing team, but not even speaking to candidates, just cold calling clients, pulling jobs and passing them to consultants. Then I progressed to a resourcer. Then I became a consultant, and very quickly I became Computer Future's UK top biller. And then I became the worldwide top biller across the entire group for SThree. Myself and my team in that 5-year period made them about £15 million. And I really enjoyed that experience for 5 years, and left, set up my own business in 2003. So I set up a business in 2003 with my business partner. We used our middle names as the name of the business. Really with a vision and mission to build out a senior appointments business, because that's what I did at SThree. And I believe the sort of project program management, change transformation piece, anything from sort of 40K up to 200K, that kind of senior appointment, not quite exec level, but that rung just below that was a real sweet spot in terms of good quality fees. If you place a good project program change management person in a business, they would tend to give you future roles for the developers and the IT. So we got a lot of repeat business, and we kind of cross-fertilize. So, a good project program manager can work across 4 or 5 different industry sectors. That's what we did. We had retail, we had e-commerce, we had public sector, we had finance, and it worked very, very well. So the first couple of years weren't easy. I think I was billing 350, 400 grand, even as a CEO or joint founder of the business. And, we started out, I remember one of our clients, we decided myself and Pete, we decided to give ourselves pseudonyms. So what I mean by that is that it was Chris O'Connell and Peter Bennett, but we also had alternative names as well to give the perception that our business was bigger than just 2 people. And I was called David Branson, and I think he was called Richard something. I can't remember what it was actually. And we was at a client in Cardiff actually. I placed a couple of people in there, and I was always known as David Branson. And I remember being in reception, and the client was sort of coming into the reception area going, David. And I was just sitting there, just looking, David. It took me like a minute to actually, say, oh, hi, yes, hi, it's me. So it's that kind of stuff. Being in the client meeting, and when asked, so how long have you guys been together then? And sort of simultaneously, I said 1 year, he said 3. It was kind of like, we made kind of like naive mistakes like that. I mean, this was obviously 20 years ago. And when we started in 2003, and we just had this raw desire, this raw belief, this raw, inherent passion and focus that we was going to, build a great business, and having never done it really before for ourselves. So, but we got through. We built out a good contract book at the start, which I think really helped us. I think that gave us the consistent recurring revenue to enable us to invest back into the business. We started off in a sort of 2 or 3 person office in Bristol, and one of those offices where you can move, and we got to a 4 person and a 5 person and a 6 person. Then we had about 7 or 8 people actually, and we decided to sign I think it was a 6,000 square foot office. And we brought the 5 or 6 people with us, and they said, well, so which part of it is ours? And I said, no, mate, we got all of it. And they were like, they literally couldn't believe it. It was just like the size of a football pitch. And well, that was the kind of belief that we had in who we were and what we were going to do. And very quickly, we grew the business. We hired a couple of exceptional people. We hired a fantastic girl to head up our NHS division, and that really skyrocketed. And then we hired some good team leaders, and we hired a good perm manager and a good contract manager. And kind of business was built on a foundation of very, very solid process, not asking our people to do things we weren't prepared to do ourselves. And very quickly, we played to our strengths, right? So, I had a very, very strong contract background, and my business partner had a perm background. So rather than both doing both, we decided to kind of segment the business, and I would lead and run the contract. He would lead and run perm. We kind of left ourselves to our own devices, which I think was important. And we didn't kind of, have a committee meeting about which coffee we're going to buy, or, that kind of stuff. And, any of the major decisions we obviously collaborated on, and that worked very, very well. And, we were very proud of the business, and, of its time. A lot of people still say it was one of the best, if not the best, recruitment businesses out there. Strengthened by the fact we had 14 industry awards, 3 Virgin Fast Track 100 awards in a row, 3 3-star best company awards in a row. And that's, some people mock awards, but these awards were not bought in any way. We had to go through all the due diligence, all the hoops, and everything else that you need to do to get these awards. And they're very proud to meet Richard Branson 3 times in a row, which is great. So lots of awards for our profitability with the second fastest growing recruitment company in the UK. And we were also voted the 5th greatest company to work for in Europe, which was great. And loads of awards like that, which is fantastic. And there's a real good culture in the business. We worked hard. We certainly played hard as well. And in Bristol, we built out this sort of HQ. It was we called it Victory House, I think, because the name was Vintry House. But we walked in and it's like sort of powerful, bold, very dynamic headquarters with 40 or 50 people in it, and just people making lots of good money, and very exciting part of the business. And we got to a critical mass of sort of 30 or 40 people. I think we were turning over at that point probably about 10-12 million quid. And it was very clear to us that 60 or 70% of our business was in the London area. So it made absolute complete sense to open up a London office. We actually went through 3 different managers. We got it wrong with that. I think where we got it right was, eventually we decided we looked at what we had in Bristol and thought there's a couple of guys here that would be ideal for that. We offered them the opportunity to go to London. They took it. Then they knew our DNA, they knew our culture, and that's when London started to grow. And we built out a London office. We moved a couple of times there. Then we set up a Manchester office as well, and we grew that out. So we had 3 really, really good functions. Now our average fee on perm was about 12 grand. Average fee on contract 500 quid a week GP. So we had 100 grand a week gross profit on contracts. Only sort of 200 contractors. So we've got quite a lean business. We're generating turning over 25 million odd quid and generating about 8 million quid in fees, 5 or 6 million quid on contracts, 2 million quid on perm, and the business was flying. Lots of awards, lots of recognition, lots of promotions, very solid. We had a good operations director in there. We had a good kind of underbelly of leadership, so a good 7 or 8 quality kind of team leaders, a good 7 or 8 quality principal consultants who had very, very clear career development plans. So we're very clear on our mission that we wanted to grow the business, but it really set a horizon. I think that was a good thing. For me, it was like we got to certain levels. I also wanted to carry on, go. I would have wanted to take it to 300, 400, 500 million quid. I had this belief that it would be as big as a Reed or a Hayes or or even on SThree, and it could well have been that. And we were talking about Australia and different offices as well, and the business was going really well. But I think we got to a certain point where it was starting to become very valuable. We had a good 7-figure EBITDA, 1.5, 1.8 million quid EBITDA. And, I was very keen to sort of drive that forward. Business partner reached a stage where I think his wife has had his third child, and he wanted to go in a different direction, which was fine. So what we had to do then was obviously find a replacement or a business partner, or certainly a vehicle to enable his exit. And, the business being worth 20, 25 million, whatever the number was great. But I certainly didn't have half of that money, because we were 50-50 shareholders, in my back pocket to buy him out. So we obviously had to find a suitable vehicle that would pay him the money that he felt he needed and deserved, and obviously that I could work with as well to drive the business forward. So we agreed that we would put the business up for an MBO, or to buy him out, and I would stay on. But and then we went to the corporate finance's house, and they charged 300, 400, 500 grand to do this kind of stuff. But before we even kind of went to market, what you have to do is you have to get your business fit for sale. You can't just base it on your EBIT, or believe you can get a number out of thin air. You have to do due diligence, and you have to understand the business is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. But there are a number of factors. Yes, it's your profitability, but also it's things like the strength of your management team, your average fee. Is your business concentrated in just 3 or 4 clients, or do you have a spread of your business? Do you have contract, consistent, recurring revenue? What's your brand like? What are your debtor days like? What are your operations like? What's your IP like? What's the timing like? Is there a recession? Is it cyclical? What markets are you in? There's loads of things that you need to consider. We ticked every one of those boxes. We had a dynamic leadership team. We had a brilliant client base that was broad and also deep. We had a great average fee. We had long-term contracts. We had brilliant operations, brilliant reputation, all the awards. We're on the up. It was a tick in every single box. And before we even kind of went to market, I don't know how it happened. We were getting offers to buy the business before we even actually produced what we would call an information memorandum, which is like a business brochure. It's only like 15, 20 pages. But the corporate finance people draw this up for us, and it's an overview of the trajectory of the business, the profitability, the sales, the marketing, who does what, and how we built the business, and like a brochure that would go out to various parties. But before we even sort of produced that or got that finished, we had a couple of offers. One in particular was a very, very strong offer that actually increased my shareholding, gave me a personal fund as well as a sort of gift to continue to roll the business, and gave Peter what he wanted as well. So during that phase, it was very difficult to kind of maintain a focus in the business. Peter obviously wanted to exit. I wanted to drive the business forwards. It's very difficult to keep that kind of thing quiet. I think on reflection, we probably could have and should have been a bit more clearer in our communication. But you don't know what you don't know. We've never done this kind of thing before. And I guess it did affect the culture of the business a little bit, because people were uncertain as to what was going on. But actually the whole process was relatively quick in terms of getting the business out there and, being in meetings with potential buyers. So I think it was probably easier for Peter than it was for me, that process, because obviously he wanted to exit and have his money, which is fine. With myself, it was yes, he needs to go for his reasons, but then, who am I going to be left with? Who am I going to be partnering with? And we've been working together for 10 years, and I would have to find someone completely new, A, to build a relationship with, and B, the business would compete with as well. So there's a lot of factors involved in that, and there was the uncertainty from my side, and also the business as well. It was a difficult and challenging time, I have to say. So the offer that came in was a good one, and I accepted it, and I think Peter was happy with it. And before that deal was concluded, a couple of days before the initial agreement was ratified, they pulled out, and we're back to square one. So that didn't help the situation, but very quickly another party came in, and I had several discussions, and in terms of due diligence, my God, I mean, every single item wasn't left unturned. So they checked every single line, every single comment on our database. I think it was, they literally lock, stock and barrel, lifted the carpet and swept underneath it and kind of just made sure there was nothing. And there was thousands and thousands and thousands of documents. I remember being in the boardroom of the private equity house, signing the deal, and there was like tranches of paper, 40 or 50 different piles of paper that I had to sign and sign and sign and sign, and the process and the amount of information that had to be passed and everything else was very, very time consuming, and it did distract from the business. So that was a learning curve for me. But I think how was I feeling during this phase? On one hand, I was feeling very excited because the business was already built up to sort of 25 million, and we had 80, 90, 100 staff, and it was a robust business. So already very successful. The excitement of taking that to another 3 or 4 or 5 echelons up was really good. But then also there was the unknown of these new people coming in, and how that would go down with the team. And I remember when I was sort of going through that, and the pictures were being taken, and the signing of it. It was quite a big deal in the sector, and it felt good, right? It felt exciting. It felt interesting. It felt different, and it felt kind of, all right, this is big stuff now. I'm now the CEO of the business. I've just done my first ever private equity deal, multi-million-pound private equity deal. And I've now got a clear vision and plan to get it from 25 million to 100 million. And, it was a big thing. This age, I was only in my early 30s, having being a young business owner since the age of 22. So the first year, they came in, and it was a very, very good relationship, very, very structured. So we went from having no board meetings to having monthly board meetings, and I mean very strict board packs of about 60 pages of the summary of the whole business, and me having to report on various different aspects of my team reporting as a collective. And we had a chairman that come in as well, and other advisors that come in as well, and we had a new FD that came in as well. So we kind of grew up as a business, and although we were doing very well, this was another level of operational rigor that we weren't used to. But I welcomed it, and I loved it. I learned a hell of a lot. I learned a hell of a lot about private equity during that period, around what it takes, what you need to do to get a private equity deal over the line, the fundamentals, the heads of terms, all the legalities of it all. So it was a fantastic experience in that regard, a very good learning curve, and has stood me in good stead now as an NED. I'm now advising my clients how to build and scale and also exit now. So that experience has been invaluable. So yeah, the regular board meetings. So it went from me kind of being in the forefront of the business. We were doing things like, before the private equity house came in, Monaco Grand Prix, VIP tickets in the best part of the track, a phenomenal experience. Las Vegas 3 or 4 times, Porto Banús, regular lunch ups, and all the usual things a recruitment business does, right? And I was in the thick of that. Although I was running the business, I was very sort of down with the kids as well, which I thought was important. And but that had to change. That had to change because of the dynamic of the new relationship. So, and that's when it started to go a little bit wrong, because I was heavily entrenched with things like trying to identified joint ventures and tried to scale the business through acquisition and doing strategy meetings and doing lots of different board meetings with the private equity house and really looking at every single aspect and sort of the business. And I became a bit more detached away from the business, which on one hand, it's not all just about the CEO. And I think it's important that any business, another factor for when selling business is that, if the business is too beholden on the owners or the founders, then there needs to be a succession plan in place. But there was more to it than that. It became very, my mindset changed and my fulfillment and my enjoyment changed because it was just a different dynamic. And I think that affected the business. And I think that cascaded down a little bit because the new people that came in, they were good guys. They knew what they were doing, but it was day one for them. And I don't think they grasped the culture, and I don't think they really were that bothered by the culture. They were more bothered by the bottom line, which on one hand is important, but on the other hand can destroy the business, because ultimately the business was built on that culture, on our ethoses, and on how we managed and driven and developed and motivated the team. And yeah, I think people didn't feel as comfortable and motivated by some of the decisions that we were making in terms of the bottom line decisions, whereas before we were aggressively cautious, shall I say, in terms of we if we felt something was right, we'd just buy it and we'd do it and we'd go for it. Whereas under the new kind of regime, everything had to be kind of triple checked and rectified, and it did affect the culture. So after a couple of years of that, I decided I wanted to exit the business, and it came to a head that needed to happen because I was having a bit of burnout. I was suffering with my personal life a little bit, and there were some issues within the business that just weren't conducive to sort of growing the business. So we decided to do that, and I kind of lost a lot of my motivation and drive. I was going through a divorce at the time, and my exit was shrouded in a little bit of kind of, I didn't really get the number that I wanted. So I walked away with probably in real terms roughly the same amount as what my business partner walked away with, but over a sort of period of time. So I wasn't overly joyed with the amount of money that I got, and kind of probably lost millions of pounds because of that. I lost millions and millions of pounds. The business is worth probably 10 times more at least than what I actually got over that sort of 2 or 3 year period that I was there. So you can imagine that the kind of my dreams and my aspirations and what I've been working for, from a very young age, had all been kind of taken away from me. And I was left with, at one point I had 7 or 8 houses and everything else. And all that had gone because of what happened in terms of the legal stuff, legal fees and the divorce fees and everything else. So I was left bereft and hurt and sort of concerned about my future, really, because what was I going to do next? So it took me 2 or 3 years to come back into the sector, and I've done that. And over the last 3 or 4 years, everyone knows now that I've done quite well on LinkedIn in terms of building, and that's enabled me to build out my NED portfolio. And please do look at my recommendations if you don't know. I've got a very robust portfolio of recruitment businesses that I'm advising to scale and to exit. And that experience on the whole that I had was phenomenally successful and positive, but there was also some dark times. And I think that's really important. That's really helped me to sort of advise businesses on the pitfalls of trying to build and scale and exit. So if anything, it was a real gift that what I went through, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so now, I go into businesses, I work with a leadership team, I build out define their vision, their mission, their values, their career development plans, their operations, their marketing, their sales, their hiring, the whole piece. Last week I was holding a big board meeting for a business. The week before that, I was, having a group monthly business review with all their consultants and going through their KPIs and, going through the minutiae of kind of, how to even close a client down. So where I position myself now is that I've seen everything in the recruitment sector, from a top biller to building out a multi-million-pound business, to selling it, to scaling it, to now advising other people. And I'm really enjoying the time at the moment. And what I will say is that it's really important to have a mission and vision and values, but it's really important to understand why you're doing what you're doing. A lot of the business owners that I work with, they get me in and they want me to build the business from 5 staff to 50 staff or 1 million to 20 million, but I don't really know why. And more often than not, it's not about the money. It's more about the fulfillment and joy of doing that, and along that journey, actually enjoying the process of that. And I think that people get transfixed on certain numbers and certain targets, but they're not built on any foundation. So it's understanding the real motivations and drivers, and working with the leadership team and understanding what the strengths and weaknesses are as well. It's very easy to talk about, I want to get the business to this level. Not many people actually get the business to a certain level in the first place, and that's just monetary value. But that's not even 5 or 10% of it. Yes, get your business to a profitable place, but also it's all the other factors as well to be able to execute a transaction. And I think it's only 2% of recruitment businesses actually get to that stage. So you have to have that mindset, I think, that have a scaling up and exit mindset way before you think you should, because the cycle can take, I've seen people do it in months. It can take 1 year, it can take 3 years, it can take 5 years. And what you're thinking and feeling now, I speak to a lot of owners and say, well, I don't ever see me want selling in the next 3 to 5 years, but you don't know. And then 6 months later, they say to me, actually, Chris, I really want us to exit now. So I think get prepared for that. Start putting provisions in place. Look at your operations. Look at your processes. Look at your contract book. Look at your debtor days. Start holding board meetings. Start being strategic. Stop just, we've had a good month this month. We've had a good quarter in terms of the top line. Look at all the other stuff as well. Get into that operational mindset. Start holding people to account a little bit more. Start looking at the real important business levers and business drivers in terms of how you're going to scale. Look at your brand, look at your marketing, and get yourself in a position that, if you did want to exit, and bearing in mind, you don't have to exit the whole business. You can do part sale, you can sell some of your shares, you can there's stuff that you can do. And I think that in this day and age, expect the unexpected. And I think it's really important to understand that most of us love what we do as recruitment business owners. We love, working with the team and all that kind of stuff. But who's to know if you wake up one day and you don't like it and you don't love it? Get prepared. I think it's really important. Be prepared for difficult conversations. Be prepared for it not being a smooth ride, and also I think be prepared to accept a number lower than what you think you wanted. Obviously, it's important to get the biggest number possible, and sometimes you can get a valuation that's way beyond your expectations. But more often than not, you get a valuation from a business, the headline number, and then they'll send you the heads of terms, and the number's slightly different, or there's so many different clauses or things you have to jump through that the number doesn't feel right. What the number should be, and more often than not, once they've done their due diligence, the number can be a lot lower than what you expected. So get the advisors around you, be realistic, and it's important to understand that the business is only worth what you're willing to pay. But my plan now is to do this again on a multiple level with the clients that I've got. So 3 or 4 of them now, I'm working with them and I'm holding board meetings, and we're on a sort of scale up exit phase of the work that I'm doing with them. And that's really exciting. And if you are really serious about scaling your business and having a vision to exit and actually achieving an exit, drop me a line. Thanks for listening.